Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for taking the time today to join us for our webinar, How to Modernize and Streamline Financial Operations Through AP Automation. My name is Derek Chang. I'm the Senior Director of Corporate Marketing here at Tipalti. We have a few housekeeping items. Your audio is muted. There is no dial-in. Your audio should be through your computer only. So if you don't hear me, you should switch over to your computer. If you have any questions, please submit them in the Q&A panel, and we'll cover those at the end of the presentation. Also, at the end of the presentation, at its conclusion, please complete the survey. It helps us provide better presentations in the future. So right now, I'm pleased to introduce you to our partner, Doug Roberts from Altruas.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for that, Eric, and appreciate everyone joining us today. As Eric mentioned, I'm Doug Roberts with Altruas, and joining me today is Russ McClendon as well, and we're happy to be partnering with Altruas on this presentation. Just a little bit about Russ and I. We are managing directors with Altruas, and Altruas is a business and strategy consulting company with capabilities to deliver and support technology solutions across organizations. The solutions include ERP, CRM, e-commerce, custom tech, just really across the board. And our goal is to find solutions which can improve processes and allow our clients to scale faster and operate more efficiently. So in doing that, we've found a good partner in Tipalti and wanted to present with them their solution so that you can see how this type of solution can automate and provide value to your business. So I really appreciate everyone joining us today. I think that's really all I've got of the intro. I know everybody's always anxious to jump in, so I'm going to hand it off to Derek, and you guys can take it away. Derek, I'm not sure if you're on mute still, but we can't hear you at the moment.
Sorry about that. I was being proactively muting myself, so apologize for that kind of gap in airspace. So thank you again, Doug. We're glad to be part of this discussion. I want to give you a little bit more about myself, what Tipalti does, and then we'll get an awesome product tour from Vita. I've been at Tipalti for over 5 years, and to tell you the truth, I am not a finance person, but I've been on the marketing side for technology companies for longer than I haven't. And it's always the same formula, some manual process that needs to be solved because of resource constraints or the need to take the business to the next level. That doesn't change for marketing departments, sales teams, IT, engineering, across the board in the organization. But what's unique about our current state and our current era is that finance is actually finally starting to get a little bit of that technology love, especially today when we're likely working from home. The paperless office is no longer a wish. It's actually a necessity. So technologies that can modernize finance operations and go beyond solving one or two AP pain points and instead address entire holistic processes, that's the key to what strategic finance teams are trying to deploy. We work with over 900 companies, almost 1,000 now. Many are likely brands you already recognize, and proudly, those customers stick with us at a very high retention rate. And to me, that really indicates that we're an important part of the finance operation infrastructure, like an ERP or spreadsheet. We relieve people of the burden so that they can deal with more strategic parts of the business. CFOs and controllers have really kind of turned in their bank fobs for the ability to pay thousands of suppliers all over the world in a matter of clicks. And they do this securely, accurately, and in an auditable way. Here's what else I can tell you about Tipalti customers. They bring us in when not only when there's an immediate need, but also when they are looking down the road 6 months, 12 months, 2 years into the future. When they see their business building momentum, they might see a need to expand internationally. They see growth happening at a rapid pace, or they see the need for richer financial controls. At the same time, every organization's finance leadership is looking to optimize their headcount. Finance always has to set the example of efficiency and accuracy. So, do they spend headcount on someone at an analyst level, someone who's likely to contribute long term, or do they use that headcount to hire an AP clerk whose job it is to key in invoices, get approvals, and make payment runs? In short, Tipalti solves today's payables challenges and readies you for the future. The 80% workload we save, the best practices that are built into tax and regulatory and fraud detection, and the faster financial close we enable, it really is about setting your finance team up for success. So, without further ado, I want to introduce Vida Izadi, our senior solution consultant, who will show you in fine detail our global payables automation platform. Vida?
Thank you, Derek. Appreciate the introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vida Izadi, and I'm a senior solution consultant with Tipalti. My goal for today is to present the solution for you. A little background about myself is that I have a finance degree and I have worked on accounts payable teams, and I have been a junior accountant. So I have lived some of this that I will be presenting to you. For our time today, I will share with you this slide that you see in front of you to really give you a sense of what you will see for our time together. I will start from 12 o'clock noon, starting the tour of Tipalti with our white label self-service registration portal, and show you how clients are capturing clean payment detail information that is being vetted through our business engine, and making sure that you as the client is receiving clean information, paying the right individuals. Within that portal, we also have tax compliance forms where you will see where we have partnered with KPMG to digitize the tax form. So there is validation going on there. We do have out-of-the-box integration with NetSuite, with Sage Intacct, QuickBooks, some other ERP systems. So we're able to do PO matching. We do use OCR technology to do the invoice capture. We have work approval, which clients give us feedback that it's very good in streamlining their AP processes and making sure that there's automation on that side. How we got our start at Tipalti was that we were a licensed money transmitter. So what does that mean to you? That means that we're going through some of the vetting that banks such as Wells Fargo or B of A is going through. So we are paying into 190 countries, 120 currencies, 6 different payment methods that we have to offer. We also have the ability to pay the suppliers early without touching your working capital or disrupting your accounts payable processes. And last but not least, for our time together, we'll show you where we have the single source of truth. We're capturing reporting information for bills, for payments, and additionally, we're able to give you 1099 prep reporting. So for our time together, we will spend time within the portal showing you how all of this sits on a multi-entity, multi-currencies, and it's hosted by Tipalti. So with further ado, as you probably know from solution consultants, I don't like to do much in terms of showing you the PowerPoint. So I like to go into the Tipalti portal. And please let me know if you cannot see the Tipalti portal. I have logged in to the AP portal. So my demo, my company is called EverSky. What you see in front of you as an accounts payable specialist, I've logged in, so I have access to payments, I have access to the invoices, I have access to reporting, all the way down to administration. So for onboarding a supplier, best practice, we recommend that clients that are onboarding...
Vita, we can't see your screen, sorry.
Oh, good. Thank you for that feedback. So let me share, make sure that I can share this. And thank you, Derek. Let me know if you cannot.
It's coming up. Yeah, it's coming up.
Oh, excellent. Thank you for that. Perfect. So let's go ahead, and I got my accounts payable hat on, and I'm going to be adding a new payee. For adding a new payee, what we ask is that you provide us with a payee ID, autofill it, give us an email address. I did mention that we have the ability to have multi-entity, so you'll see this here. Well, additionally, we do support in 17 different languages, and if we want to welcome this payee in their language, we can do that. But inviting the supplier is as simple as clicking on this button and adding them. What that does do, it triggers a nice welcome email that's generated, and it will have the branding of the client. It will have the verbiage as to what do you want to say to this new supplier. So we want to invite them to come into the white label supplier portal. We want to capture their payment information, their bank information. We have the link here, making it simple and easy for the suppliers. Additionally, we have two-factor authentication, and it's tokenized. With this day and age, sometimes you don't know if you're being spammed. So this is giving them the security, the peace of mind that once they click on this link, it will guide them to the supplier portal. And the supplier portal will have the information that they need in order to log in. And what we want to do, we want to gain information from who is this individual, who is the payee, and where do they reside for payment information. And also we want to run some checks on them to make sure that the client is paying the correct individual. Feedback that we get from clients that are using the supplier portal is that they're able to cut payment errors by anywhere from 66% to 70%. It's allowing them to make sure that the onus is now on the supplier to put in their information, and the data that's being captured is coming through and is coming cleanly to the finance department. So at that point, they have the information they need to be able to do what they need. So this white label supplier portal that you see in front of you will be labeled with the logo and with the coloring of the client. And that way the supplier, the payee, knows they're in the correct portal. We need to gather information as to who they are. Why do we want to know that? First of all, what we're able to do with this information, once it's keyed in, we're able to run OFAC, sanction list checks, terrorist list watch, to make sure that they are who they say they are and you're paying the correct individual. Additionally, when they tell us what country they reside in, as part of being a licensed money transmitter and the depth of product that we're able to offer our clients, we are able to pay in 190 countries, 120 currencies. We have 6 different payment methods. So we pay SEPA payments, local bank transfers, 60 to 70 countries, wire transfers. So if an individual isn't in a country that they don't offer PayPal, that option would not be available from this drop-down. So you see here that, for instance, we're able to pay via direct deposit. We have smart logic that kicks in once the information is keyed in. What does that mean to you? For finance team, accounts payable teams, that means that now the payee, the supplier, is putting this information in, and they have to make sure they're keying the information correctly. So it's not on a piece of paper that was passed on to you or on a napkin that was scanned and then sent on to you. The onus is on the supplier to key this information, and the alphanumeric indication is telling the smart logic is kicking in saying, hey, you need to key in the information before you can move on. Additionally, what we're able to do here with this white label portal is making sure that automation really does exist. And what do I mean by that? So we don't want it to be end of the year where you're chasing this, the supplier for their W-9. We put it up front here in front of them. And so often, maybe the individual does not know if they need to be filling out a tax form. We partnered with KPMG and created a tax wizard that walks the individual through a series of questions that really guides them as to who are you and do you really need to be filling out a tax form? One step further, when they're capturing that information and keying in the W-9 information, we're able to go on behalf of you, bounce this TIN information up to the IRS portal nightly to make sure that this information is valid. We do have the legal binding digital signature here that once it's captured, then it's on file. And there is that peace of mind that you have the information because 1099 time comes at the end of the year. Now you have the data and there is no guesswork. This white label self-service portal is offered in 17 different languages. Now, once they register, this portal becomes a source of truth for them. What do I mean by that? That means that if they want to see if they got paid for a payment, they can simply come here to view that information. So the phone calls are going away. Your team, your finance team can focus on strategic things that are top of mind for them. If a payment has not been submitted and it's been deferred, why did it get submitted? Tax forms are not provided. So the onus is now on the supplier to provide that information. Time comes up for submitting an invoice. Simply, they can upload the invoice from this portal and submit it through. Once the invoices are submitted, the supplier has access to their invoice history, so they can check for the status of it to see if it was submitted for payment, is it in process. Best practice, and what majority of our clients are doing, is they have an accounts payable or finance mailbox that all the invoices are being emailed to. In that scenario, what we're able to do is put that information here where you, as a supplier, if you're coming in, you simply know where to direct the invoices to. That's not to say that you could not upload the invoice from this point. So that is our white labeled self-service portal that is giving the suppliers access to have the automation, to have one location, keep their information here, centralizing and tracking payments from one location. And really, they're under this receivership of having the onus of controlling all their information here. So imagine, if you would, invoices have been submitted, they're coming in. Let's put our accounts payable hat back on and follow the journey of the invoice and walk you through what happens once an invoice comes in. Tipalti ingests the invoice. Let's follow the journey of the invoice that has been submitted. What you see here from the Tipalti AP portal is the Bills tab. So the journey of the invoice starts in the pending review. Once it's been reviewed, it goes into the approval tray. If there are no disputes in terms of whoever's approving it is not sending it back, then it goes all the way to pending payment. But if there is accounts payable action, it will sit in this tray waiting for action to be done. As an accounts payable specialist looking at this, I can run filters on this. I can view the different bills based on the different entities that I'm working with, or I can simply say that, hey, I want to look at different locations, different projects, different departments, different cost centers. So the way that you can dice and slice this is different ways, because that is in the life of an accounts payable, you have to deal with that. Some of the capability and breadth of what we can do at Tipalti and what we get feedback from clients that it's standard, par, up to none. This is some of the unique differentiator for us. So looking at the invoice review, we have an invoice that has been submitted and happens to be from the company CloudCom. On the left-hand side is the digital invoice that has been ingested by Tipalti. The OCR technology has read this invoice, captured the information, put it on the right-hand side for the accounts payable finance team to digest. So you can see that header information, invoice information has been captured. As we move down the invoice, you will see what we have that's unique is the Tipalti payables intelligence engine has kicked in with machine learning. After ingesting invoices from CloudCom, the intelligence knows that the approval, workflow approval for this invoice from this company should be in this order. That's not to say that the specialist, the finance team member, can also move things around based on how they see things and they want to make changes. They can add approvers on the fly. They can also add in a manager or limit the approver for the individual they're putting in. Furthermore, what we hear is that the machine learning along with OCR technology is allowing the intelligence to know that, okay, CloudCom, this description, every time it's coming in, it needs to be tagged in to this GL code, to this sub-level of expense. So we have put in our PI, our machine intelligence, our machine learning to kick in, along with the fact that we're able to bring in information from GL, but also giving the ability for the finance team to add information, to change things on the fly, because we need to have fluidity. We need to have the ability to collaborate and have things at our fingertips in terms of moving things around, because we want to get these bills payable and move down to the next step in the process. Once we're good with eyeballing this, making sure everything's correct, we can submit this for approver. So as soon as we click submit, it goes into the next level of approver. So the CFO will get an email and it will let the CFO know that this bill requires the approver. The bill information will be presented here, An image of this invoice is also available for their viewing pleasure. They can approve it, they can update the coding or send it back. They can dispute this bill with the vendor. That's not to say that as a CFO or the member in the chain of approver, you can come into the Tipalti AP portal and simply approve that invoice from here, from the Tipalti portal. But let's say for the sake of presentation, all the invoices have been reviewed, everything's fine, and we move the invoices through to the pending payment. And we're able to review this. We're able to run filters previously as it is, or we can just choose all and pay these invoices based on a payment cycle or based on a specific date that we deem fit. Really what Tipalti has done here is they have talked about, hey, what do we see a day in the life of a finance department dealing with invoices? They have come in and built a robust portal that's helping with not only automation of invoices, but automation of payments of these invoices. Day in a life of an invoice, it could be that the CFO walks in and says, hey, I paid those bills partially, or mark a bill as paid manually, or I need to retract the approval. These are things that happens in the day in the life of an invoice. So we have to be allowing the platform to accommodate that. Additionally, it's not always that invoices are coming in through a mailbox. Invoices might be coming in snail mail or someone walked them in. We have to be having the capability on a platform that you can add bills, invoices on the fly. We have thought about that, and we have made this where it's user-friendly and it allows for those one-off scenarios. Let's say that all these bills have been submitted for approver. Now it's time to put our payments hat on, and we're able to switch from the journey of the invoice where they've been all approved. Now they come in to the payments tab. On the payments tab, so very self-explanatory, these batches came in. We have 17 of these invoices that are ready to be submitted. We can have one level of approvers. So if above the CFO, there's another individual that needs to approve and bless these to be paid, we can do that. As I move down the screen, this really talks about the power of the Tipalti engine, being a licensed money transmitter, being able to move billions of dollars on behalf of clients. We have here what you see, the ability to pay the different payees. We have the different currencies. As you can see, we're paying in euros, in British sterling pounds, Japanese yen, the different payment methods that we're able to pay, and who's getting paid. At any time, we can cancel payments here. But you'll see that Tipalti is able to standardize the processes, streamline this to make that AP automation something that is smooth and easy. So we free up your finance team members' time to do what's top of mind for them, and they're not caught up in this. Once this payment file is approved, all the invoices look good. I'm going to approve this. Once I click on that, then I can look into the tab that says funds required to see how much funding do I need to do, because Tipalti is a licensed money transmitter and they can move funds on my behalf. So I can see the transactions that are here and how much I need to be funding the Tipalti virtual account, which is a FBO account. It's a non-interest bearing account. And we come in and sweep that account for the funds. As long as the funds are in there by a certain time, we process the payments that day. and we're able to cut the checks, to do the direct deposit, to deposit money into the PayPal funds for the payees, for the suppliers, so they can get paid for those bills, for those invoices. And there is no confusion around, okay, am I getting paid? Am I not getting paid? Did the payments go through? Everything is done from the Tipalti AP portal. Let's say that the funds were deposited, everything is gone through, the payees got paid. Now it's time for us to do some reconciliation. As a member of the finance team, I have access to reporting. I can run payments. I can do reconciliation reports. I can run comparisons to the payments. We're not purging history from the time that you become a Tipalti client of ours. We're keeping the information there so you can have access to that data. You can view the payees list. That's not to say that you can view that from this tab. Additionally, what you could do is, let's say it's end of the year time, you need to look at your 1099 prep report. You can look at your 1042s if you're dealing with any W-8 information. So we really have thought about how we can collaborate with the different departments as someone else is doing. Maybe someone on the CFO team is really in charge of doing this. We've given the tools they need to have receivership of the reporting, be able to come in and gain access to payment, to payee, to bill, to tax information. Additionally, I mentioned I'm a super user. So with that, I have access to information in terms of the email communication that's going out. So I want to maybe change the verbiage for the CFO letters that are being submitted. So I have access to tweak the emails. There's over 100 emails that are here. So there's triggers that go out if a tax form is not provided by the supplier. When a bill goes out for review to the CFO, controller, whoever it is, or a bill is coming back to accounts payable, and there's triggers of email communication, notification. All that resides in the communication tab. In terms of integration, I mentioned integration with different ERP systems. That's handled from here. So that is the Tipalti portal. So for our time today, I wanted to present the solution, how Tipalti is automating the accounts payable world and giving the tools to suppliers and to clients to streamline the processes and give them what they need to follow the journey of the invoice along with the payments, and how simple and easy that is done. So with that, I like to stop sharing and give the mic back to Derek to see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Vita. I always love watching you present because it always inspires other ideas about how companies are using us. I've heard stories from customers who are manually approving individual bills that are coming in, or worse, they don't even have an OCR system, that they are actually keying in invoices. That's very problematic. I think if you're growing, if you are scaling your business, if you're going global. So it's always heartening to see our demo in action and exciting as well. So with that, I'd like to get into questions. If you do have a question, please don't hesitate. Put it into the Q&A chat box. We will try and get to all the questions. So one of the first questions we had was, Vita, this one, if you can answer, are all suppliers required to use the portal?
No, that's a very valid question. So thank you for that question. Some will not want to use it, and Amazon, FedEx, or other scenarios. They will not want to use it, which is very understandable. In that case, you as the finance team member or accounts payable team member can onboard them, as you saw me adding the payee. So that can be done that way. So to answer your question, no, they don't have to go and onboard themselves, but know that you do want them to have access to the supplier portal to see their information. So that's what we do recommend as best practice, that you onboard them, but then give them access to the supplier portal to see their invoice information, their payment information. And hopefully that answered your question. If not, do please let me know.
Thank you. And we've also heard that, when suppliers do use the portal, it is actually more secure, right? It's not going through an email somewhere. Somebody's not sending wire transfer data over email or phone or, God forbid, whatever nightmarish communication capabilities you have. So another question, great question here. Does Tipalti match purchase order to the vendor invoice?
Oh, yes, very good. You're right, Derek. Very good question, which comes up. Not that any other question you're asking is not a good question, but we do get that question asked a lot. We were Partner of the Year last year with NetSuite. One of the reasons we became the Partner of the Year with NetSuite was because we do PO matching. We support that currently with NetSuite. We are working on doing PO matching with other ERP solution. So that is on the roadmap for us coming this year. So stay tuned.
And then a follow-up to that question was, when you get the approver email, is the PO also included with the invoice?
So yes, in terms of if it is a NetSuite client.
Got it.
Yes.
Venkata wants to know what OCR is being used on our side.
Ooh, Venkata. I want to say Okta, but I'm only 90% sure on that. So let me take that as an action item, Venkata, and get back to you just to make sure I'm 100% sure on that.
Yeah. And in regards to OCR, so it's not just a straight OCR into Tipalti. We also offer managed services to correct issues that are in the invoice. And as the invoice is further processed later on down the road, machine learning picks up on that and actually continues to refine that invoice so that it's straight through.
Yeah, good point.
Can you talk more about managing AP for multiple entities and subsidiaries?
Yes, absolutely. I will just give you the trailer on it, and I'm not sure who's asking that question, but if it doesn't meet your expectation, just let me know and I can go further detail in it. But we support multi-entities, and clients will have I have multiple entities and they have multiple, each one has their own bank account. So I need to fund them via that way, and we can accommodate that. So when the bills come in, depending on how you set up your implementation, during implementation, you can set it up that these companies, the invoices coming in, they are attached to this entity, or you can have where the PI, which is the Tipalti payables engine intelligence, pick that up after 3 invoices that it will know. CloudCom comes in, it's attached to EverSky Ltd, and that's the entity that is going forward. That's not to say that, as you notice, as I had my AP hat on, I could change that entity also. So on the fly, I can make those arrangements as I see fit. So with the multiple entities and in terms of general ledger, that will also flow in. So we accommodate that. We set up the different GL structure during implementation. So you can do the cost analysis. You can run the GL based on that also. So that at a high level is how we handle it.
Great. And Gigi has a question. When your CFO is reviewing payments to pay, can they filter the bills and payments by entity?
Absolutely, Gigi. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And in fact, they don't even have to log in, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So another question came in. Can you predefine the invoice approval flow?
Yes, you can. During implementation, you can do that. But again, you can set that up to have the PI, the intelligence, pick that up. But to answer your question, yes, you could. You could predefine that.
What payment methods do you offer? I think you covered it a little bit, but maybe we can be more explicit.
Yeah. So what you didn't see from the drop down was debit cards. Debit cards is offered, and we do also have direct deposit, ACH, wire, checks, local bank transfers, 60 to 70 bank transfers, SEPA transfers. We do have the options of hold my payments. What is a hold my payment? If you're changing banks or changing payment methods, that's an option. PayPal is an option, but know that if the country that the payee is in, PayPal is not an option for whatever reason, then that is not a method of payment. And hopefully that covered it for you.
Thanks, Vida. This is a great question because I think it speaks a lot to something we haven't talked about yet, which is when suppliers have an issue, a payment issue in terms of support, are disputes tracked until closure in the system, or is it all just through email?
Oh, very, very valid questions. So yes, it is within the Tipalti system, accounts payable system, and you have access to it. As soon as you dispute a bill, you have to, the finance team, the CFO, whoever is disputing that bill with the supplier has to put in a box why they're disputing it. And all that information is tracked. So there is a way to go back and say, oh, this was disputed by the CFO on such a date, and here's why they're disputing it. So you have total transparency as to why this is happening.
Great. A lot of great questions coming in, super deep and a little wonky, but we love it. So Robert has a question around, he would like to know more about how Tipalti integrates with the GL system and what information gets pulled in and out.
Yeah, definitely, Robert. So the way that we set up the system, it really depends on, because I've worked with SAP, Oracle, all different ERP systems. They're all unique and individual, and they're just like in a snowflake. They're all unique and individual in their own way, and they have different requirements. For instance, you see with NetSuite, they're using segment codes. With Intact, there's dimensions. So we really, on the front end, try to capture as much information we can to understand the requirement of the client. Having come from a background working with the different organization, as I know that the solution consultants, and maybe I'm feathering our team's capability here, but we really work hard to have that partnership with the clients to understand their requirements, do the discovery upfront so there are no surprises once we get into implementation, to understand not only the journey of an invoice, but also what are you doing with your aging reports? What are you doing? What kind of journal entries are you making? How are you doing your payables, financials? So we need to understand what GL level we're going into. Have there been customization on that front? We need to understand it from the perspective of which ERP are they using and what are they trying to achieve? And we really work hand in hand with the client to have that understanding and be able to come back to our implementation team and give them the information they need to set up the GL for the client. So in terms of when I say we have out-of-the-box integration, that means we're setting up the information and all the data is flowing over. There is point of direct bi-directional feed. There's point of integration where the information goes over when the bills are approved, when payments are approved, it's going in real time. So if you, Robert, are the CFO and you're running a journal entry report, your GL report, you're sitting in with all your controllers, you can get real-time information from the system. That's not to say that from the Tipalti portal, you couldn't extract reports to get that type of data and have that access and see real-time as to what's happening with your payables. So hopefully, Robert, that answered your question.
Thanks, Vida. I don't think we've stumped you yet.
No.
We've got about 14 more minutes. If you have questions, definitely chime in. We're ready and raring to answer your questions. Another question that came in, this one's interesting. We're going through an ERP implementation. Should I wait to implement Tipalti? And I think, obviously it depends on where you are and what the situation is, but maybe Vida, you could talk a little bit about how customers of ours have made that decision.
Yeah. So Derek is spot on. Those are words to live by. It depends on where you are. And I will tell you, having done ERP implementation and coming from a finance background, maybe I have a predisposition to the way I would answer this question. So I'm going to take that filter off so you don't hear that. But I would tell you that I'm working with a client right now that is going through a NetSuite implementation, and they just signed the contract yesterday. So we're going to be they're going to do it side by side, and that's how they want to do it. So if you want me to put my filter back on as a finance person, I personally, and I would feel more secure if I've done the ERP implementation and then I go live with Tipalti. But that's my finance background talking. But know that that's not the case. It really depends, like Derek said. And where are you? Where are your resources allotted to? Do you have the manpower on the ground to be able to do both implementation? So it depends.
Right. And I remember a couple of stories from customers where they implemented Tipalti first as just because they were an online marketplace, their needs for payables was way more, their private company, their need for payables was way more pertinent to their business model than, say, the ERP side. They could always create GLs in Excel from Tipalti's outputted audit trails. So they were able to get that reconciliation done offline, but they really needed the payable side. So it really does depend on kind of where your pain is and what situation you're in.
And you bring up a good point, Derek, that we didn't talk about that segment, right? The mass pay world. So thank you for mentioning that. I didn't even think about that.
Thanks. And then Sean would like to know, as procurement cards, P cards, credit cards like Brex are more frequent, can Tipalti process invoices using these payment methods?
I'm not sure I understand Sean's question.
I think he's asking if P cards can be used in lieu of, say, bank transfers and whatnot.
So he's talking about a credit card, not a debit card, right?
No, yeah, I think he's talking about P card procurement cards, the company payment system cards.
Oh, okay. Currently, we don't support that.
This one's a broader question. How long does it take to set up a solution like Tipalti?
Ooh, that one depends.
I know.
Derek, you want to take a stab at what you see, and I'll share what I see?
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten some customers up in a matter of weeks. We do have a unique requirement with our customers, which is the KYC process. We actually have turned away customers because we're trying to maintain our money transmitter license. And so in order to do that, we actually run KYC, know your customer, on our customers so that we are making sure that they are a reliable, real entity who we're paying on behalf of, because otherwise we're on the hook for that too. And so sometimes that process can take a little longer depending on who the company is and when they're returning information to us. And then at that point, it's a coordination between our implementation team and I would say whoever the company is, their IT team. You know, there's not a lot of IT involved because it's all cloud-based. Everything is off-site for the most part. There's no on-premise anything. It's really about configuration. And so, you know, we can get folks up in a matter of weeks, week. Sometimes it depends on how complex the implementation is. But then, you know, you've got larger enterprises who maybe have multiple entities across different countries. They want very unique workflows that can take longer. And then obviously, if you have an implementation into an ERP that you require, that extends the amount of time it would take as well.
Spot on. I don't have anything to add. That's great.
They pay me enough, I think. So speaking of implementations and integrations, you mentioned some of the ERPs. What other solutions do you integrate with?
So we have out-of-the-box integration with NetSuite, with QuickBooks Online, with Sage Intacct. That's what we have currently. What's coming later this year is our flat file integration that will be for all to use. So that's what we have currently.
Great. We have got another question from Venkata. And this one I think is really pertinent right now because I think companies are looking to extend their payment terms, go from net 30 to say net to 45, net 60, and then, you know, suppliers are being kind of pressed. Will Tipalti extend credit to customers for early payment discount to suppliers?
Will Tipalti, or is the question will the client? Because we're paying the client's payees on your behalf. Is Venkata, is that your question? That will, because we're a licensed money transmitter, and if your payables is net 30 or 45, as Derek was mentioning, or 60, we follow what you want to do. We are the licensed money transmitter, so we're paying the payees on your behalf based on the requirements you have. Does that make sense?
You know, Venkata, maybe, I don't know if you're asking about our NetNow feature.
Is he asking about NetNow?
It could be, but maybe you can go into that a little bit since we're talking about it.
Sure. I think maybe you're referring to what we had in terms of the NetNow functionality, where we're able to, no charge to your processes. We do same day payment processing for your suppliers, and we provide discounts to that. So we can extend those credits, those discounts based on the NetNow feature that we have for same-day processing for the suppliers. So really, there's a lot more that we can get into, and I don't want to extend this. So I'm happy if you provide us with your contact information, Venkata. I can send you the NetNow information so you can look at it in detail. Because I typically do an hour on NetNow, so I think we only have 3 minutes left.
Yeah, there's a lot of strategy involved with NetNow, and in particular, the supplier communication effort that goes into it is pretty involved, and it's a lot of trial and error too. So we are running towards the end of the presentation. There are no more questions, which I guess means that we answered them all. If you have any, I'll give you like 10 more seconds to chime in. But I definitely want to reiterate at the end of this presentation, you'll be given a survey. So please complete the survey. It helps us develop better content, and it helps our partners know, how we're doing as well. So we'll be sharing that with the team at Altruas. And it's been a real pleasure to talk with you all. Without further ado, I think that is the last of the questions. So, Vita, thank you very much. Doug and Russ, thanks for having us. We're excited to continue the partnership.
Sure. This is Russ McClendon. Thank you guys, Vita and Derek, for allowing us to be with you today. And thank you all for attending this presentation. Do feel free to reach out to Doug or myself or the team at Tipalti if you have any further questions. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.